Happy Women's History Month. Welcome to another episode of Authentically Detroit, broadcasting live from the Lower East Side here in the city, powered by the East Side Community Network and sponsored by none other than the Ford Foundation, now a content partner to the new bridgedetroit.com. I'm Orlando Bailey.
And I'm Donna Givens-Davidson.
Thank you for listening in and supporting our efforts to build a platform of authentic voices for real people on the East Side of Detroit. We want you to like, rate, and subscribe to our podcast on whatever platforms you listen to us on. We drop a new episode every week, so make sure you turn on those notifications. We are in an election year in the city of Detroit. This year, Detroiters will be electing their mayor, city council representatives, and the city clerk, to name a few. Here on Authentically Detroit, we will talk to as many candidates running for office as we can. Joining us today is Latisha Johnson. Latisha is a candidate for City Council in District 4. Latisha is a resident of East Ingles Village. She is also the founding executive director of Mecca Community Development Corporation. Latisha, welcome to Authentically Detroit.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here, and I feel like I'm at home with my two East Siders.
That's right. That's right. East Side all day. If we don't have anything in common, we could talk about the East Side and our love for the East Side. Latisha, it's been a while. I don't think I've run into you because we've all been in the house. Haven't even really spent a lot of time with Donna during this pandemic. So let's just check in with everybody. How are y'all doing? Latisha, how are you doing? You all right?
I'm doing pretty good. Just trying to maintain, dealing with everything that's going on, still trying to be helpful to people in the community, because a lot of times I think about what is going on with me and I'm like, okay, people are feeling the same way. So how can I extend my hand and, help folks in the neighborhood just to show them that, we're still here, we still care about them, and we're all dealing with this together.
Yeah, we're in it together. We're stronger together, right, Don?
That's right.
How you doing?
I'm good. I took my mother, I'm on vacation this week. So other than a couple board meetings and Authentically Detroit, that's pretty much all I'm doing, a couple emails here and there, but trying to really just cool down a little bit. This is the year, I think last year, with so many people passing away, untimely deaths, and the trauma that we're still dealing with, I've become increasingly aware of self-care and not wanting to be a person in any pre-existing condition, wanting to model for my children, other people, good healthcare practices. So I've done a lot of changes. I've changed how I eat. Actually, for Lent, I gave up wine and I'm drinking tea. And I'm starting to work out, and I'm just like, you know what, just really invest in your own health. So I was excited to get my mother and my sister their second vaccine, and I'll be getting mine next week. And this year, for the first time ever, in my professional life, I've scheduled out 4 weeks, not contiguous weeks, but 4 weeks of time off for me. Nice. And there's a couple more that I'm entitled to take just based on our personal
tenure,
my length of time, but I want to have some flexibility. But I just locked in 4 solid weeks to say I'm going to take care of me, because you can't take care of anybody unless you're whole yourself. And this stuff will take you down if you're not careful. Black History Month is such an intense month. It's beautiful. You get to talk about all the great things. But I don't know, I'm watching Judas and the Black Messiah. I'm watching, all of these movies about us. And it's taxing on an emotional level for me. And so, again, this is just my way of taking care of me. What about you, Orlando?
I'm doing okay. And I, if I'm being honest, I would say that I am really just arriving to this place of okay within the last couple of weeks. I think that, at different times, folks are hitting a wall. And I got to tell you that I was hitting mine and trying to figure out how to remain productive, but also push back on the notion that we have to constantly be productive in this Pantene Pro V that we are living in. Like this is like we are in pandemonium. and the world expects us to deliver. And my psyche, my brain just doesn't work that way. And so I felt last week that my creativity, my ability to create and just think independently had been stifled. And so I drove and I visited a really close friend in Atlanta, and stayed in the house and sat on the porch and enjoyed the sun. I should have taken off work while doing that. I didn't. I worked all the way through it, but it was a bit of respite that I needed. So I'm getting to okay. I'm also just sort of grappling with the fact that we are creeping up on the anniversary of the first confirmed case of COVID in the state of Michigan, and reliving all of that. It's already been a year, and not necessarily reliving it, but thinking back on it and how, and when you think back on it, how palpable that trauma and that sense of loss is, even a year later. And we lost so many folks. I lost a few people, about 6 people last year that was close to me due to COVID and other complications. And so I'm not ready for March, but we're gonna see what's in store. But I'm okay. I'm okay today. I'm good. Donna, you said you changing your diet? What you
Yeah.
eating?
I switched in September to a keto diet. So it's primarily very, very, very few carbs. And really, it's been good for me. I've lost weight. I feel very energetic and it's become easy. It's just second nature. And Kevin is diabetic. And so his sister was hospitalized because her blood sugar, she had kidney stones and her blood sugar shot up and then his started going up. So he ended up on the keto diet with me. So now that's what we do. We're very comfortable doing it with each other. We're still newlyweds, so we still explore little things together. And so he's drinking my teas, we're eating our keto diets and just having a good time. But just always remembering that the way that we eat really influences, and I just know, everybody's body chemistry is different, right?
Yeah.
Carbohydrates are not my friend, okay? Not at all. So the fewer, the better for me. And everybody doesn't have to agree with that, but he's been on this keto diet and his blood sugar levels have normalized. His blood pressure has gone down, and he has also lost weight. So, when you have somebody who has pre-existing illnesses in the middle of a pandemic, where you have an opportunistic pandemic or infection, then you want to make sure that you are doing everything you can to, be as healthy as possible. And it's kind of crazy because, when you are in your middle 50s and you fall in love, you don't want to make sure, you don't want that to be a 5-year thing. Okay. You want it to last. And so how do you make
Oh,
it
talk
last,
about it.
take care of ourselves? So that's been, and I don't, it's not sacrifice for me. I just want to say that it is that you develop a new lifestyle and you develop new rituals and new ways of saying that self-care is a thing. And part of it has been my willingness to shoulder stress and burden myself with the responsibility and not share it with other people. It's not good for other people because other people have skills and gifts, and it's not good for me. And so, it's the year of the woman, right? This month of the woman. It's Women's History Month, and shout out to Black women because we've been holding it down since forever.
Holding it
Oh,
down.
Black women, it's still Black History Month for me, all right? Because my sisters are who I'm celebrating. But when you look at all
Somebody said Melanin March. Melanin March.
I'm with it, but I think that when you think of as women, all we carry, the loads we carry, and I'm not in any way trying to dismiss or minimize what men carry, because but I say it's a man's world. Even Black men sometimes don't carry the same type of loads that Black women carry. The load and the responsibility of childcare, is never optional for us. You got to just be there, all right? You don't have visitation weekends, you're just the mother, even, So for me, I think I'm hoping that other women are also taking the time out to value ourselves. And Latisha, you are a great example of a woman who's just taken on a lot. We're going to talk about you. I first met you when I was at Youth Development Commission, and I actually was at the annual meeting for Warren County Development Coalition at the time before it changed its name, I think. And I saw you and I gave you my card and you called me up trying to figure out how you could take care of kids, youth in East English Village, Morningside, and what is it?
Cornerstone.
Cornerstone. And and I thought you had a paid position, but you were volunteering, weren't you?
I have been volunteering for the last 14 years, and I think a lot of people make the assumption that I do get paid. And so, no, I haven't. I haven't. I've always tried to make sure that, especially with Mecca, that everything is on a solid foundation before we hire any staff. And I look at like how much money we made last year, and when I hear other people say that they've gotten paid, I still can't find money to pay me because I'm like, no, we have to get these things done before I get paid or anybody else gets paid for that matter. But no, I love the whole notion and idea around self-care. I think a lot of us are having to think about that and make sure that we're taking care of ourselves just because of everything that we've gone through. I just recently, I was talking to a neighbor and she was telling me about some minerals that she now takes, someone that she knows who makes them. And I just ordered me some because I realized that our diets just don't give us the vitamins and the minerals that we need to be able to live our best lives, to have the energy to do everything that we are doing. And so I'm excited. I just got my box today. I'm really excited to start using them. So I'm like, hey, I'm gonna have more energy. Watch out, y'all.
I think it's great. I said on Facebook the other day that I said one thing about me is I'm gonna love on the Black woman. Y'all raised me, and I think to hear the both of you sort of decenter external forces and center yourselves, which y'all rarely do, which you guys rarely have the opportunity to do, and say I am making a intentional and conscious decision to invest in myself, invest in my care because I want to be here. Donna said, I just got married. We gonna make it last forever. What Keith Sweat say? Make it last forever.
Yes,
You know what I
right.
mean? Make it last. And so it's just it's so comforting to hear this conversation around self-care and respite, especially in the circles of of Black women, because y'all take care of the world, y'all take care of this country, y'all continue to save us. Good.
There's a man. I'm not going to call anybody out. I respect people, but there is a man in social media space, very active in the Democratic Party, and I had to put him on pause on Facebook. I respect the brother. He's been putting things out there, but he started to say, wait a minute, when are Black men going to get a chance? Black women share responsibility with Black men, and I'm like, what world are you in? Okay, and so I started counting all of the Black men who are in leadership positions in Michigan. And there are certainly a number of sisters who have stepped up and have always stepped up. But this idea that somehow we have to be small because Black men need a helping hand. I have too much confidence in Black manhood to believe that a Black man needs me to be small. If you need me to be small, I'm going to help you lift yourself up so that we can be at the same level. I don't need anybody to be small to make me who I am. And, I think that a lot of times that's what we learn to do. We learn not to brag about ourselves. We learn not to express self-confidence. We learn not to be too opinionated. We learn not to be too demanding. We learn to be self-effacing, and we learn not to complain. And when we do all of those things, people say, well, that's a good woman. That's not, in my mind, what a good woman is. I mean, there are good women who do that, right? But to me, a good woman is one who self-actualizes and becomes all she can be, all God invested in you, because you're supposed to shine your light so other people can find their vision and their path. So that is what, Black History Month, Women's History Month means to me. I'm not a person who is going to, stand up and pretend as though women are, the saviors of this world. We have lots of women who have done bad things, Black and white. But the reality is that sisters have been holding it down since forever. And we deserve not only recognition, we deserve peace, we deserve happiness, we deserve power, not to misuse it, but to use it properly in the care of other people. we deserve incomes. You know, Latisha, you deserve to have a salary. Shoot, I'm like always trying to figure out how to get you some money so I can get you paid. I don't even know that. I'm like, how do we get Latisha paid? I understand that you are married to somebody who is willing to take on the burden of maintaining your household. But it's like, you know, I just appreciate you so much because that's never your demand. You show up, you always have a smile on your face, you give to other people, and it's never about you. Last year, we had a sustainability fellowship. And I met with Latisha. I don't know if it was last year or the year before last. It was actually 2 years ago.
2019.
Pre-COVID, you know, so it was sometime.
Yeah.
And I met with you and I said, you know, we have this fellowship, but we don't have any money because you're outside of our area. And you said, okay, I'll come. And it was that same night. And you showed up. I was like, she came. You know, 'cause we don't have any money. I already told you we have no money for our projects. We have no money for stipend, nothing. And you were there and you stayed there, continued, completed the fellowship, poured into other people, and even worked with a couple people on their project. And you got nothing out of that other than giving. And that's something I just love about you.
Well, I appreciate that. And so in doing this work, what I have gotten is number one, fulfillment. And two, when somebody comes back to me and shows and expresses appreciation, that just means the world to me. It absolutely means the world to me. I know my time will come when I am making a salary. I've made good money in the past. So, you know, I don't concern myself with it. I'm able to live, I'm able to eat, I have shelter, it's warm in my house. You know, I'm doing well. I am doing well personally. But I just enjoy, we had a neighbor who, God rest her soul, she passed away last year due to COVID. She was one of my greatest champions. She would say, Latisha, you know, I just appreciate everything you're doing to bring our communities together. And it was so heartfelt to me. It just made me feel so good because, you know, even volunteering and doing the work, there are so many people that try to tear you down, that beat you up, that speak negatively about you. And just hearing, even if it was just a couple of voices of people saying, you're doing a great job, thank you so much for everything that you do. Because the other thing that people don't realize is we have not in the past had any funding. It's, you know, generate ideas on ways that will help to empower other people and find the money as we go throughout the process. There has not been just money shelled out to us for us to do the work. And so because we've been able to do what we've been able to do with limited funding, I feel good about it. I love it because I know down the road, we'll be able to scale the work that we do. We'll be able to continue to grow it. And so it just makes me feel good when I've helped somebody else. I have come to realize that my destiny in life is to help others. I've always wondered and said, okay, in what capacity? Because I continue to make progress in doing this community work. And I just look forward to continuing doing more.
You know, it's one of the, you know, the greatest awards is when you can go back home, go back to the block, go back to the hood and get the love. You know, you don't have to have a single esteemed honor in your name, but when you can go home and get the love from your neighbors, from the pavements of the neighborhood, that's all the rewards that a lot of us need. So thank you so much for sharing that, Latisha. We're going to talk more about your candidacy for city council a little bit later on in the show, but it's time for Fresh Off the Press, news that we are thinking about. If you have pieces that you want discussed on Authentically Detroit, you can hit us up on our socials at Authentically Detroit on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or you can email us at authenticallydetroit@gmail.com. Donna, Fresh Off the Press.
Finding a Fix for Detroit's Massive Home Repair Crisis. And this is by Louis Aguilar. It was published on February 26th in my favorite Bridge, Detroit. So this is an article that really just highlights the significance of home repair problems and references a report completed by the University of Michigan that notes that we don't have enough resources to maintain homes. Housing is downright dangerous. And, you know, the study estimates that there are more than 24,000 housing units in Detroit that are severely or moderately inadequate.
And that seems low. So that's just what they got. But yeah.
Yeah, more than, so more than, and that, well, inadequate is not needs repair, right? Inadequate is not your gutters hanging down.
Right.
Inadequate means you cannot really, you should not be living in this living environment. If somebody were to do a housing inspection, your home would not pass, right? And we have people living there. Let's just go with that low number of 24,000 households. And let's say 3 people per household. So we're talking about 75,000 people. And like Orlando said, I mean, that's low. And then you have all of the people that we know are living inside of our community without housing of their own. So 3 people is low because we know that a lot of people are doubled up inside of housing, have permanent couch surfing guests because people don't know have places to live. And yet our city is only able to fund about fewer than 3,000 homes every year. And that's with grants and loans. So I have a concern about that. And I think that we need to really, we are in the middle of a campaign cycle, and we're going to talk about this in a little while. But, this everybody's running for mayor, city council right now. But we also have a city charter that is under consideration. And within that city charter, you have a Detroiters Bill of Rights that has been integrated in there. And what we're hearing from this administration and some city council members is that if you fully funded this, we'd be broke. Well, my position is if you fully funded the Detroit's Bill of Rights and you keep doing everything you can to aid corporate citizens in the city of Detroit, we might be broke. But in order to address this and do more to address this housing crisis, which is real, we're going to have to do more. We'll have to stop doing some things downtown. We'll have to stop helping corporations come into the city and promise 5,000 jobs that will never materialize in the numbers they promised. We're going to have to say this is our top priority if we're going to fix this crisis. Last thing I'm going to say real quick is when people are living like this and they can't afford to fix their home and their home is moderately or severely inadequate, how many people just leave the city? If they have the resources, they take their income tax dollars with them to a suburb where they can afford to live in decent housing and they don't have to worry about fixing up the decaying housing in the city with high property taxes, high water rates, high insurances, everything. So the city should have a vested interest in keeping people. We just went through a census where we lost people, where people didn't bother filling out the census. Most people didn't bother filling out the census, a lot of whom I think didn't think it really applied to them. So I think that we've got to change our understanding of what is an economic interest to the city of Detroit.
You know what, Donna? So many things. One, if I could toot our own Bridge Detroit horn, we called it a crisis. We call the massive need for home repair and for people living in homes that are in disrepair and living in homes that are dangerous a crisis, because that's what it is. Secondly, the process that you described at the end of your comments, Donna, around people who have the resources to leave, or the family that they're able to leave. What is happening is a form of displacement over time. If there is no investment in the people, if there is no real investment in the housing stock that our citizens are occupying to the point where they can no longer live there, what are we doing by ignoring it? We are, in effect, displacing residents once again out of their homes and out of their neighborhoods. I call BS on the notion that we will be broke. We find money for everything else. We find out and we figure out how we will borrow. We will take out proposals and bonds. We will go to private philanthropy. We will do, the city does it raises the money for whatever it is that the city wants to raise money for. My contention is that politicians right now that are in power don't see this as the politically expedient thing to do to help Black people in the city of Detroit fix up their homes so that they can stay there. And so I'm sorry, Yana, go ahead.
Oh.
And so I will put a button on my comments by, number one, re-emphasizing that it is a crisis, that it is something that should not be ignored. And this is a question that we will continue to ask any candidate running for public office on this show about.
Yes, I absolutely agree, strongly agree. And as I've said in the past, the Detroiters Bill of Rights is the Bible that I am going by this year. Do you stand with it or against it? If you stand against it and you throw an economic argument at me, I'm calling foul. The mayor said, we asked him a question about fully funding home repair. And he said, if you did that, it would cost about $1 billion to fully fund home repair. So I want to ask you a question, or maybe $500 million. I can't remember how much he said, 600 million. How much money have we spent on demolition? And we just took a $250 million bond on demolition. Have we given Detroiters the choice to say, what would you prefer, investing in existing houses or, this aggressive demolition program, which, by the way, there is not a single safe way to engage in massive demolition without increasing the amount of lead in the air and soil and increasing risk to children. Mass demolition does not come without consequences, and we know this.
Thank
So
you, Cat Stafford.
I'm not anti demolition, but I am anti giving people real choices and pretending like there's no choices on the table. But what I want to say is that I think what I heard from the mayor, and I've heard this from other people, is that is not the role of government. There are people who believe that the role of government is different. So we are going to ask you what you think the role of government is when we get to you, Latisha, and what you might do. But that is my take on the massive home repair crisis. We've known it's in crisis. We can now quantify it. I'm going to read the U of M report. I think we should post it on our Facebook page so everybody gets a chance to read that U of M report and maybe come back later and look at some of the recommendations that are incorporated in there and some of the barriers that we see.
All right. Fresh off the press, the city expands vaccine eligibility to include manufacturing workers, adds 2 additional Senior Saturday locations. So this is some big news coming out of the city of Detroit today. And, I actually want to give a virtual round of applause for this vaccine rollout that is happening in the city of Detroit. Detroit, one of the only municipalities that are gathering the demographic data so that we can ascertain who is actually taking the vaccine. We know that Black people were adversely affected or disproportionately affected with COVID. And I'm happy to say that mostly Black people are getting the vaccine, over 60%. I want to commend the workers at TCF for really creating a seamless experience for folks getting the vaccine. Shout out to this mayoral administration and the work that they have done in making sure that Detroiters en masse can know, number one, have the most up-to-date information about where they are in terms of their place in line for the vaccine and knowing how to get it. So manufacturing employees living or working in Detroit are now eligible. So if you work in a plant, any kind of manufacturing job. And then there are 2 Senior Saturday, they also added to the number of locations where you can go and get vaccinated. So this is just me giving information. Greater Emmanuel Church of God in Christ, New Providence Baptist Church are all now a part of the Senior Saturday vaccination effort. Greater Emmanuel is on the west side on Shaper, New Providence is on Plymouth. In addition to Grace Community Church, Latisha, in District 4, Arma Ross, in the Kimini Recreation Center, Fellowship Chapel, of course, that is the Reverend Wendell Anthony, and Second Ebenezer, that's the Bishop Edgar Van. So, they have been able, the city has been able to adequately partner with churches in these faith-based institutions and staff them so that they're able to give out about 500 vaccinations at each location on these Senior Saturday locations. Bravo to how the city has rolled this out. Bravo to the city asking and collecting demographic data. And for those of you who are listening, who are still contemplating on taking the vaccine, we hope that you really do your homework. And but if you go ahead and get vaccinated, we're rooting for you and we're hoping that all is well. But that's some big news out of the city of Detroit. manufacturing employees, food service workers, security guards, teachers, post office employees, employees at the city, state and federal law enforcement now working in the city of Detroit. If you are a member of the clergy, you are now able to go and get it. Healthcare workers at home and in service. So if you want the vaccine in the city of Detroit, I'm happy to say that you're able to get it in the city of Detroit. So.
And listen, I was in line for so long this morning. It was a long, long line taking my mother and my sister for their second vaccine. My sister and brother-in-law got theirs finished last week, and Kevin and I will finish our vaccines next week. I highly recommend. I think we all did Moderna, but whatever it is that you do. I've read a lot of people saying it's a personal decision. Somebody even said, my vaccine is vitamin D and zinc and all this kind of stuff. So I had to put her on pause. I'm serious. Sometimes you just have to not look at anybody's Facebook post, because that's part of self-care too. It's like, I might even like you, but I can't listen to you right now. It is not personal. Public health is never about you. Me deciding to change my diet, that's about me. Now, I can even say it's about me, my kids, people who love me, but it's about me. That's me taking care of myself. When I mask up, when I socially distance, when I take a vaccine, it is about me contributing to the public health and the effort to end this pandemic. If you have convinced yourself it's not, you're wrong. The other thing is that, one of the lasting areas of damage that Donald Trump did to this nation, and it's untold, I'm even sorry I mentioned his name after that golden calf or whatever that thing was last week. But after, one of the areas of lasting damage was the anti-science, anti-media narrative that not only took hold and grew legs in the crazy right wing, but there are a lot of people left wing who say, oh, you know what? It's like these crazy ideas, just marinate in the community, and we stop looking at risk. There's nurses. Friend of my sister's is a nurse. She said, I'm not taking the vaccine because I'd rather get COVID. And I'm on Facebook, and there's a doctor who's a friend who's had COVID. She says, no, you don't. And you don't know how long the damage is going to be to you. But even if you take all the zinc and vitamin D and whatever, and you're not exposed, you can still be a carrier. The idea is herd immunity through vaccinations, not herd immunity because enough people die that we have achieved the herd, and we've thinned the herd. That's what, the other way. You either thin the herd and then you get immunity, or you protect the herd through vaccines. And so there was this big push, and I'm a strong proponent of it. I hope that you are also looking at when you become eligible, Latisha, because we want to see you here and we want you to be part of the solution. What are your thoughts on that?
Donna, I've actually been waiting to make the list. So I've shared over the years numerous times that 7 years ago, I actually had skin cancer. I didn't have to go through chemo or radiation, but I did have a lymph node removed. And as a result, I have a compromised immune system. I am surprised that I haven't made the cut yet, but I'm looking very closely so that as soon as I'm able to take the vaccine, I will run down there to take it. My husband
Me too.
works for Chrysler. And he was just sharing with me that Chrysler will now start to have the vaccine available for their employees. So I'm excited about it. I believe it or not, because he works for Chrysler, I walk around my house with a mask on because of my compromised immune system. So when I tell you, I will probably be one of the first in line to get this vaccine, I will be there. And, I just recently lost someone who was very close to me. And she said to me when she went into the hospital, it was so devastating. She went into the hospital. I didn't know. I was wondering why I hadn't heard anything from her. And then she called me when she came off the ventilator. By the grace of God, she called me. And the first thing I could get out was, I just want to tell you that I love you. And so she ended up having to go on an oxygen machine and went back on a ventilator and unfortunately passed away. It just hurt my heart. So to hear people say that they're not going to get it, it's unfathomable to me, but it is because of what I deal with on a regular basis. And even in spite of it, I still run the nonprofit organization, but I say, listen, I have to take care of myself first while I'm still wanting to help you all. But now at our community closet, instead of people coming in and shopping, you tell me what you need, you do a curbside pickup because it's just that serious for me.
Yeah. You know,
I mean, it is a grave sacrifice. I'm sorry, Donna. I just wanted to say it's a grave sacrifice, and it's a reminder of how great the sacrifices people are making to live. You're at home with your husband, and you got to walk around with a mask on because your husband still has to go to work. That's a sacrifice that a lot of people probably can't even fathom, Latisha. And I know that there are many more families in your position. And I just, it's a reminder that we are still dealing with this. It's not over.
And I just want to say, give a word about herd immunity. My granddaughter, who is now 3 years old and healthy and, vibrant, was born with some fragile health conditions. Until she was 9 months old when she had surgery, she could not have vaccines. Okay. Little kids get vaccines, they're on a vaccine schedule. They couldn't give her one. Her health was dependent on herd immunity so that she would not be exposed to other people. Everybody cannot receive a vaccine. What herd immunity does is the herd protects people with fragile health conditions. Right. And the herd does that by making a sacrifice. That's what herds do, right? If a herd is going to protect you, that means that they do what they need to protect you. So it became extremely real to me when I'm listening to all of these anti-vaxxers that I have this beautiful, tiny person who cannot do the things it would do it if she could. You can have a vaccine, but I would imagine that there are some people who had lymph nodes removed in other situations who can't have it because of other conditions, or there's people who have allergies and they can't. And we are responsible for protecting them. The selfishness of a society where we only look at whether or not I can protect me and my own is stunning to me. And we know that senior citizens are so fragile. We know that people who have other conditions are so fragile. And I just see it as our responsibility that we are our brother's keeper. And so I appreciate your story. I appreciate your sacrifice. And I'm going to pray that very soon you're going to make that list, because we need you, and your husband needs to not always be afraid of passing it on to you, because I also know what it is to be afraid of giving somebody something, even if you'll be okay. And when you love somebody, that's a fear. And then we have so many people living in fear like that we've got to look at it. So thank you for sharing that story, Orlando. Maybe every week we can just let people know who's on the list, because it changes week by week. And I want to make sure people know when they get to the list, because the other thing is that you have this hierarchy of people getting it, people who are well informed, who are on social media, who are receiving emails. No, but there's a whole universe of people who have no idea that they qualify for the virus right
now. Yeah. My brother's keeper. Yeah, I think that just my last point on this is we have to be careful, especially as Black folks, in how we show up in this conversation, making sure and ensuring that we have decentered white patriarchal normative society and that rugged individualistic thinking that comes with that, because that's not who we are. We are communal. We take care of each other. We're not individual. We are a village. We are a village. So thank you for that, Donna. That wraps up our Fresh Off the Press segment. If you have pieces that you want discussed on Authentically Detroit, you can hit us up on our socials at Authentically Detroit on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or you can email us at authenticallydetroit@gmail.com. Latisha, we are excited to talk to you about your work and your candidacy for City Council in District 4. We get ready to put you in the hot seat. All right, okay. We got some questions for you. First of all, thank you for joining us. I can't believe it's the first. I've known Latisha my entire career since I was 22 years old, and so it's just cool to have you on finally. Latisha, you've run for various offices in recent years, but have yet to see a victory. Tell us why you decided to run for council in District 4 this time.
Well, you know what? I think 4 years ago really showed me the light. So 4 years ago, when I ran for the office, I was not expecting the incumbent to run 4 years ago, but it happened, and I had already started to position myself to run. And so when I came out with the percentage that I had 4 years ago, I was actually astounded, right? I was able to connect with a number of people throughout the
What was that
district.
percentage? Do you remember, Latisha?
I received 42% of the vote in the general election.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
to get that percentage against an 8-year incumbent was like a total shocker. So, I'm always one who is up for a challenge, who will always put their best foot forward. And all I knew was, hey, I'm getting out here, I'm knocking doors, I'm talking to the people, understanding the challenges that people are having and wanting to go to work to address those challenges, right? At the time, I was just about to come off the Board of Zoning Appeals and representing the district on the Board of Zoning Appeals. So didn't happen 4 years ago, but I actually feel really good. I feel really good about that race. I have a genuine passion for residents in the city, probably because I'm born and bred here. And I have 7 siblings that are here, many of them yes, I know a lot of people think I'm an only child.
Dang!
But many of them in the throes of life and, just trying to figure things out day to day. And when I
Yeah.
think about my service to the community, I immediately think about my siblings and what I do to try to help them, to try to empower them, sharing information with them and all of that. And so this time around, I said, okay, am I going to do this? Like, this is so much that's put on an individual to get out there and campaign. It's a lot financially, it's a lot on you physically. I, of course, look at Mecca and say, okay, wait a minute, what's going to happen to Mecca? And thankfully, I've been able to pull together an amazing board that has my back, that's willing to step up and do the work while I'm sort of off campaigning. But I will tell you, this time around, the straw that broke the camel's back was the number of people that called to encourage me, to support me, who said, okay, Latisha, we really need you to do it. And so because, this work has been 14 years given to people in the community, when the community said to me, we got your back, we need you to do this, I said, okay, all right. But I need you all to know and understand that I need you there on the side of me, especially during this pandemic when campaigning will look so much different than it did in the past. I need all of them to be there on the side of me, helping to get the word out about the campaign and just who I am as a person.
Yeah, it's really cool to be called to this work by constituents and by residents, and being affirmed in that way. Latisha, I want you to, tell us and our listeners exactly what you are for. Tell us about the tenets of your platform. What is your platform, and how are you going to get this stuff done?
So you know what? With Mecca, we have been facilitating a discussion around community land trust. And I've lived in my house for 16 years now, and time actually flies, but been here 16 years. This was a completely different neighborhood when I first moved here. I can remember going through the struggle and the fight to maintain this community, to help people to avoid losing their house to foreclosure, to help people get into a payment agreement, to make sure that people, specifically African Americans who wanted to stay in this community, could stay in this community. And fast forward to today, it seems like every time I turn around, somebody's leaving, and the dynamics of our community are changing so much so that we're losing the diversity. And one of my primary issues is making sure that Black and brown people, low-income people, seniors have the ability to move into our neighborhoods or stay within our community by way of having affordable housing within our neighborhoods, not just in complexes in Midtown or in the New Center area, if that's still a thing, but making sure that our neighborhoods are diverse, because I think we're more powerful that way when we come together and help one another and help to build one another. So that is one of my major areas. I want to make sure that the state not only recognizes community land trust, but that the city supports it. When we look at the numbers of properties that the Detroit Land Bank Authority has, and we talk about the demolitions in that $250 million proposal that we just passed, Garland Yates wrote a paper and talked about what gentrification looks like. And a lot of times we don't realize that demolitions can help drive gentrification, because as we demolish swaths of land, what's going to happen with that land? Eventually, a developer is going to come in and develop that land. Who will be able to afford it? It's not likely that Black and brown people will be able to afford those properties. So the goal and the focus has to be on making sure that Black and brown people maintain their property, because I think it's extremely important that we start to build generational wealth the way that other people have and the way that other people continue to do, just making sure we have that opportunity. And I'm also really focused on having access to skilled trades programs. A lot of times we talk about young people, whether they want to go to college, don't want to go to college. There is a generation of people that, to me, have lost hope, that are looking for a way to build themselves up. But we leave them out. There's a 35 to 40 some odd year old person who is still trying to identify what they can do. We have to have access to programs for them as well. And I think it's important to make sure that we have those programs throughout the city of Detroit. A lot of times we look on the far west side and say, oh yeah, they have a variety of programs going on the west side, but do our residents have access to those? Can they get to those programs, let alone get to jobs? Another area of focus is transit, making sure that people have access to transit that's going to be reliable, that's going to be dependable, that can get them to jobs. Talk about the minimum wage, making sure that people can afford to live. So there are a number of things, of course, quality of life issues, just being able to work with people that I've developed relationships with over the last 14 years to make sure that we address those quality of life issues in a timely manner. And so for me, it's all about empowering people, giving people access to resources for them to be able to live a good quality life.
So I have a question. I mean, I agree with what you said. I do have this thought, though, when we start talking about diversity, I want to be clear about that, right? Most of the neighborhoods in District 4 are 90 to 95% Black. East English Village is not, but most of the neighborhoods are. So some people would say that when more white people move in, that is diversifying the neighborhood. Is that the kind of diversity you're talking about? You're talking about the diversity of maintaining Black representation inside of a neighborhood that has been Black for the past 30, 40 years?
I'm talking about making sure that Black and brown people can stay within our communities. Because what's happening is, as other people move into the communities, and so, like, for example, in Morningside, there are properties that the land bank has owned. They do the Rehabbed and Ready program, and they sell the house for $170,000. Is that realistic?
No.
So that means that everybody around you, their property taxes are going up. right? They're going through the roof. And so it makes it that much more difficult for people to be able to stay within their property, especially if you're a senior on fixed income.
Right.
And most of our neighborhoods, especially those outside of East English Village that are still predominantly African American, there are seniors that are still there holding on to those houses.
Who cannot afford to fix housing.
Yeah.
Housing, like people, the older you get as a human being, or the older your house gets, your car, anything else, the more money you got to spend keeping it together. Okay. And so, roofs are not made to last forever. A furnace cannot last forever. Porches, windows, doors don't last forever. And those things require a large outlay of money. So I think that part of it is in Michigan, the taxes don't necessarily increase that quickly because of the Headley Amendment. Can't increase more than 5% of the cost of living, whichever is less. But it's the maintenance that's so high. It is the insurance. It is the water bills that are going up. All of the other costs. So I think it's important, though, and when somehow about something in our culture has made it difficult for us to say Black people. We can say Latino people, we can say Arabs, we can say Middle Eastern, but when we say Black, we always have to follow with brown and brown. We don't have a lot of brown people living. I mean, light-skinned people, I guess. We don't have a lot of brown people. You got to include everybody. We don't have a lot of brown people living in our communities. They're primarily Black. And there has been a net loss of Black home ownership and Black wealth. I'm talking about District 4. There are other places that do have brown people, but District 4 is primarily Black. And Blackness has been under some type of assault. And there has been anti-Blackness that's built into so much of what we do. And I think you have to treat anti-Blackness with pro-Blackness. If you don't like Black people, I'm going to love them. I'm going to bring it out and call it out, because there's this invisibility. I was reading the book White Fragility. White people have to whisper Black. Well, they're Black. They don't say they're Black, because Black is the kind of thing you have to whisper. It's almost like the N-word, but not quite as bad. You can say Black, but Black and brown. And I'm only bringing that up because we have a campaign in the city where I think a lot of Black people, quite honestly, feel like they are under assault politically, economically, and we are not a priority for investment. And some people are looking for a candidate who sees and values us and is willing to invest in us. So my question is this: if you had all of the money in the world, you could do all of that, but what would you stop paying for in order to get the money to invest in Black people in District 4 so that we can stay? Because you got to stop spending money somewhere to get to the money somewhere else.
So I cut out a little bit, but I heard your question. So I have come to the realization that $27 million has been spent on facial recognition cameras, right? Most people don't realize that. For what? What is that technology for, realistically? So there are a number of things where money needs to be moved, and we need to talk about defunding the police to be able to provide services. There are also a tremendous amount of federal dollars that come into this city that are just not being utilized for our properties, to help us maintain our properties. But if a person looked at it, it could be a part of the strategy on gentrifying the city, right? Because if we don't maintain these properties, they're going to become in disrepair. They're going to fall into disrepair. Next thing you know, it's going to demolition. And there we are. We have this large swath of land that now gets to be redeveloped by some developer who comes in and charges $250,000 plus for a unit.
Yeah. So I hear you. Go on, Orlando.
No. I love it, and I love that you had an answer for that. So you mentioned defund the police. A lot of folks want to still have questions around what that is. What does that mean to you? How are you defining defund the police?
So when I look at the work that I do with the nonprofit organization, we have workforce development programs that we do that we really try to focus on We're looking at rehabbing houses and making them affordable in the community. So for me, defunding the police would be taking money from the police to address those types of programs, to be able to fund those types of programs throughout the city. So I have shared with a number of people that years ago, I did a ride along with a couple of police officers. I stayed with them for 6 hours. Every single assignment that they got called to was a domestic violence issue. Is that something that the police need to be dealing with? No, there was no gun involved in the incident. No crime truly had taken place. It was all domestic violence related. So we need to move money to social services. We need to move money to address mental health. We need to move money to fund programs so that we can give people positive, productive things that they can do with their lives and be productive citizens.
Latisha, what is your, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well,
Go ahead, Donna.
because a lot of very thoughtful people got together, and I didn't have really a lot of time for this, and came up with a Detroiters Bill of Rights that outlined a number of areas that they thought, as Detroiters, our government should perform in certain ways. Have you had a chance to look at that?
I have looked at it. I'm really delving into it, but environmental health, access to clean and affordable water. Yes, absolutely. I think all of those things should be by right. They should be available to us as Detroiters.
So people are going to be voting on that at the same time they are voting in the primary election in August. Are you willing to make that part of your campaign pledge, that you support that, so that when people come out to vote for you, they understand where you stand on the revised city charter? Because we know there's going to be a lot of money and a lot of effort spent to condemn the Detroiters Bill of Rights. Where do you stand on that? Can you come out and publicly say that?
I definitely would. A lot of people don't realize, but I grew up, Orlando's eyes bucked when I said that I have 7 siblings. I grew up in a low-income household. We had our water shut off when I was a kid. That didn't stop the water from being shut off for some reason. We've dealt with, and I see the environmental issues, and I think about industry in the city of Detroit and why we're so quick to put industry in the city of Detroit, recognizing the impact that it's going to have on folks. My husband has asthma. My son has asthma. So when I think about all of those things, there are preventative measures that can be taken to address those. But a lot of times, unfortunately, we end up being reactive to it. So is clean air and clean and safe drinking water something that is for the privileged? Absolutely not. And so as we go throughout this pandemic and we see just how important that is, not only for the individuals who are low income, but the impact that it has on all of us, we started to think differently and to think twice about giving people access to it. So why that is not the way we think all of the time, that's something to be said about our legislators' policy that is implemented, or the way that we actually spend taxpayer dollars in the city of Detroit.
Can you say more about your legislative policy agenda? You talked about, the tenets of your platform being, community land trust, access to job training and other quality of life issues. And even on your website calls you an inspiration, an advocate, supportive and inspiring. And having known you all these years, I can vouch for that. But how does all of that translate into legislative policy, the everyday work, the gritty work at the council table and in these committees?
Sure. So it's actually preceding that. So I have been reaching out to the Lieutenant Governor about community land trust being something that is supported by the state of Michigan, because it currently is not. And so in the role of City Council, working to implement legislation that does support community land trust, where we can get houses out of the Detroit Land Bank Authority's purview and get those houses rehabbed, revitalized, so they are income producing properties, so that we have affordable housing within our communities. And just making sure that we are being wiser and being more creative as it relates to turning these properties around. So there are a number of legislations policies that can be put into place to impact that. It's just a matter of breaking it down and, making sure that it makes a positive impact. Because one thing I will say is, I think a lot of times we put legislation into effect that we haven't really given thought into how it'll be implemented and the impact that it has on residents and our communities. And, skill building programs, I think that's just a part of the budget. We need to make sure that we provide financing to be able to implement, whether that is in District 4 at Wayne County Community College. We expand the programs that they have within the college, or we develop a new building. There is actually some discussion about a building over here on East Warren that will be part of the Detroit Works program, and providing access to the computers and helping people to develop their resume. I'm not quite sure that it'll actually be a facility where people can be trained, but just having it accessible to people. So, I can't say making sure, but I want to say making sure that those types of things are included within the budget and money is not pulled from that and put in other places. So making sure that we hold people accountable to move forward with those items that are put in the budget clearly to impact positively the lives of residents in the community, and not saying, oh, okay, we have this thing now, we need to pool that money and spend it on something different. So just making sure that we hold our elected officials accountable to the work that they are doing, and not only having a focus on the corporations, but making sure that there's a balance in the services that we provide to residents and the impact that it has on our communities.
So there's recently a little scuffle inside of City Council regarding one City Council person said that there was some sexism at the table, and that there was not necessarily a level of race and equity and social equity, especially dealing with our only Hispanic, Latinx City Council person ever. And the pushback was, hey, wait a minute, it's racist to question the intentions of Black men on City Council. And there's just a lot going on. Do you think that City Council would benefit from race equity training?
I think everybody would benefit from race equity training. It's a difficult thing, because a lot of times when you start to have the discussion, people shut down because they think it doesn't apply to them. There has to be a way for it to be brought in where it's palatable for everybody, so that it actually makes change. But that's a discussion for everyone, that everyone could benefit from. Absolutely. Because I know we all have biases. We all have internal biases. I may have some for people of a different class.
That's right. And that's why Blackness shows up so often, is as classism, right? I like when Chris Rock made that special, and he said, I love me some Black people, but I hate NIG, the N word. And okay, fine. So you have condemned a whole group of people who you've decided are deserving of that title. And it's really about classism. And people joined in, now we feel fine. And I love the Office episode where Michael felt free to repeat that. And in his, I don't know if you saw that, his race equity training, but it was really great. If you haven't seen that episode of The Office, please watch it. But the reality is that's how it shows up. And so you can have Black people, and you have had Black people presiding over the policy. We have Black police officers. We have people who are making decisions regarding who gets to keep their home and whether or not people continue to have certain services. And it's not that they don't like Black people, it's just that they don't like a certain kind of Black people.
Right.
They're embarrassed. Bill Cosby said they were bringing down the race, right? We got to do something about these people because they're dragging down the race. And I think I love young people because young people have started talking about respectability politics and how our notions of respectability and worth begin to help frame up what our social policy looks like. And until we can love the returning citizen, the person who has not had much of an education, the person who is living, struggling hand to mouth, until we can love all of our people, understanding the roots and reality of racism that continues to this day, we are either going to to the problem of the solution, because it's not like racism ended in 1968 when fair housing was passed. We still have housing discrimination that shows up right now. And the crazy thing about that is that wasn't there a report that you shared not too long ago, Orlando, about the different appraisal values when a Black person had their home appraised, and appraised for about $500,000 less than when a white person had the exact same home appraised? That's like $500,000 racist, you know. So that's, what do they call that? The Black
worth
tax?
of racism, $500,000 worth of racism.
So, you know, and we all pay that, right? We pay for that, and we pay it in our car insurance. But the reality is, to a certain extent, we can afford to pay the Black tax. There's a whole lot of people who can't afford to pay it, who can't afford a defense attorney, who cannot afford an attorney to look at the housing values that their home has been appraised for and question whether or not that's accurate, to just enforce their rights. And so, you know, it's almost like Black freedom has been commodified. Can you afford to be free in America right now? And I'm looking for a city council person who loves those of us who have the least, as well as those of us who have the most. No need to, you know, get angry with people who have stuff, but loves those of us who have the least, and form social policy around that. Can you name one thing other than community land trust that you would do that would help Black people who have the least in our city?
So one of the things that I want to figure out how to address is the $600 million overtaxation. So I shared that, you know,
she went there.
She had to go there. Wait a minute. Remember, she has a finance degree, so she has to figure that part out, right? I don't want to reveal all of my secrets, but I will figure that out. I have my youngest sister lives in the 48205 zip code in District 4, and I have taken her downtown to get on a payment agreement to make sure she doesn't lose her house that she owns outright. I have to make sure that she has access to information so that she does not lose her house. But I come from the least of thee. I am the least of thee. I recognize everything that I've been through in my life, and I recognize how I've been able to move forward and make progress. And that was really because of my siblings and other people in the community who saw something in me and directed me. So I am hyper focused on that $600 million overtaxation, because at the very least, there has to be a way that we can give people credits over the course of some years to be able to address that, because people had their homes stolen from them as a result of taxes that they never owed in the first place. That shouldn't sit well with anybody.
Nobody.
Latisha,
I was just going to say, especially not a legislator who is supposed to be there for the very people that were negatively impacted by that overtaxation.
Right.
We're coming up on time, but Latisha, I got to ask you this. I want to talk about intent versus impact, right? Because we have folks in positions of power that have quote unquote good intentions, but the impact looks different. And oftentimes, what happens is politicians aren't even on the ground enough to see the adverse impact that their intentions have. How do you plan to stay connected? Who do you plan to partner with? And are you going to be one of those politicians we don't see until election time?
So listen, I think it's extremely important to recognize the work that people have done, are doing, and I think we can expect for them to continue doing what they have done. So I'm not new to the community. I've been working on the ground for the last 14 years. So everything that I talk about comes from the people in the community, and it is to address issues and concerns that people have addressed. So I've seen, and I know all too well, that we elect people because they say what we want to hear, but they've never done anything in the community. And then when they get into office, we get surprised that they don't know which way to go. And then they seem to turn against us, the folks in the community. So intention versus impact, I've been making an impact for 14 years. My goal is to make a greater impact, a positive impact on the residents throughout District 4. So the way I'd like to stay connected with the community is by making sure that this Community Advisory Council in District 4 is intact, that it is a robust organization where everyone from the community in District 4 can be involved, and I am there talking to the people.
So you're saying that you would start and appoint folks to a community advisory council to help inform your legislative decisions and platforms. Is that what you just said?
Well, the Community Advisory Council was just started in District 4. I want to help it to be a robust Community Advisory Council, so that, yes, absolutely, because I'm only one person. I don't live in District 4 by myself. So I don't plan on making unilateral decisions that affect everybody in the community. So that's the goal. I have in this community made sure that I listen to the voice of the people in the neighborhoods, and I will continue to do that. I think that's the best way to move forward and do the work for the people, because that's who I'm going there for.
I just want to say that we have a LEAP coalition, and the LEAP coalition has been around since 2009. And I hope that we also stand. We have 26 members, mostly neighborhood leaders with a few technical assistance providers. And I hope that we also have voice, because sometimes you have these bodies and it's like, who gets to be heard? We used to have citizens district councils, and the citizens district councils had more voice than other folks. And I'm not saying I'm against the community action, the community advisory councils. I support the formation of them, but that is a political body. You get elected to that, and then you have a certain privileged voice. I'm hoping that those people who, you know who they are, the people who run block clubs and neighborhood councils, and they come to the table as part of a coalition. And I'm one to say always, I don't speak for the East Side, right? People have to speak for themselves. I just try to provide a platform for people to be able to speak for themselves. But how are we going to listen to those folks as well?
So those folks, the Community Advisory Council is only run by people that are elected, but everybody is open and welcome to come to the meetings. And so, I say that because that is the way to be able to connect with everybody throughout the district. Obviously, there would have to be a number of individuals that work within the office who are staying connected with the different organizations throughout District 4. And I'm actually leaning towards 3 people in the office to be able to do that, because we have some phenomenal organizations throughout District 4. I think it is vitally important to make sure that their voices are heard, because I see us on the ground working and addressing the needs of the people. And so I want to be able to uplift their voices, to be able to provide resources and support back to those organizations as they need it, as I come into contact with them. So no, I'm always willing to listen to everybody. And the key is having entities or organizations where you can hear the masses and not just a select number of organizations or neighborhoods.
Mhm.
Latisha, last question for you. I want to talk a little bit about Mecca and what happens to Mecca if you win. What are the implications of your position with Mecca and you potentially being an elected official? How is that going to, yeah.
So when I win, Mecca, actually this year, my goal is to hire our first staff member. And so once we have a hired staff member, I think they will be able to continue doing the work with the support of the other 9 board members that will remain on the board to continue the vision. Let me say that this organization, although I started the organization, it was not my idea. It wasn't my, I had no inkling of starting this organization. It came out of conversations from when I was on the board of East English Village Neighborhood Association. And we wanted to work with the other 2 neighborhoods. And so we have liaisons from all 3 neighborhood associations that sit on the board that have identified the vision for the organization. I just got it started. So it will not, I think it'll thrive if I'm not there, because I believe that a great solid foundation has been set for the organization.
Can we just do a quick shout out for the Detroit Residents First Fund, which will help facilitate that transition when you are elected, so that should you be elected, there's a fund that was created by a number of funders, and I want to call a couple of them out. Ed Ignatius was a funder who first came to the table and said, I have a vision. And although he is no longer with the Kellogg Foundation, we all honor his sacrifice. And then when Ed walked away, Kevin Ryan stepped up, as well as some folks from the Kresge Foundation, Chris Dobie from the Herb Foundation, and a number of other funders came to the table and said, let's put money in. And there were community organizations like ECN leaders like myself, like Maria Salinas and Larry Simmons and others who said, let us help shape what this looks like and give it support. Can we give a shout out to, this is going to be my shout out for the day. Can we give a shout out to the Detroit Residents First Fund? And can you talk about the impact on that fund in helping prepare you for and ensure the success of your organization?
Absolutely. I think we definitely need to give a shout out to them, because the Detroit Residents First Fund is, when you say authentic, completely authentic about empowering and uplifting community leaders and the organizations that we run. So giving us some financial capital to be able to do the work, to build capacity within our organizations and within the community. For us, it has been multifaceted. So it's initially, I'm going to say initially, it's a 3-year commitment to the organization to provide support. For us, we are starting that community land trust conversation. We are hosting our home improvement workshop to teach residents on how to improve a house if they want to go into the construction field, to work with them to help get their builder's license. And it's also us purchasing and rehabbing a small house within the community that can be an affordable house. So you bring all of those pieces together, and we're able to create some affordable housing within the community by residents who are then paid to do the work and continue to stabilize and revitalize our neighborhood. So I am forever indebted to them. We have great conversations within our cohort, just talking about how we can all collectively come together and do the work throughout the entire city, and how can we help to push the envelope on a lot of work that's being done by grassroots community leaders, and make some real change happen within the city. So I'm excited about it. I love it. I really appreciate Detroit Residents First Fund. And if I can give a shout out to Chandra McMillian, she does a phenomenal job just continuing the conversation and really helping to build us up as leaders in the community.
All right, you just heard from Latisha Johnson, candidate for the city council seat in District 4. You can go to latishajohnson.com to learn more about her. Again, that is latishajohnson.com to learn more about her. Call her up, catch her out in these streets and ask her questions and ask her why she deserves your vote. If you have topics that you want discussed on Authentically Detroit, you can hit us up on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Authentically Detroit, or email us at authenticallydetroit@gmail.com. I want to give a shout out to all of our new and old listeners. I think I said this last week, but Donna and I have really been feeling the love lately from all of your comments, from all of your emails. We see you, we honor you, and we love you because we started this and we didn't know what we was doing. And we still here almost 2 years later. I want to amplify a piece of work that I have been doing with Bridge Detroit, and that is work on the community priorities model. Bridge Detroit is a journalism and engagement organization with a mission to leverage journalism and reporting prowess to provide an answer and a solution for priorities that residents themselves have set. And so we have released our very first progress report. And I'm super proud of it. We were able to coalesce some residents and Zoom world during the pandemic. And so those progress reports will come out on a regular quarterly basis. But the very first progress report, almost a year later, after me joining the team, is live on bridgedetroit.com. Want to also acknowledge Tommy Walker and the Detroit versus Everybody brand and their collab with the Gucci Changemakers program. Gucci has been doing a lot of programming around diversity, equity, and inclusion, including this new Changemakers program. Richard Grundy from Journey is also a Gucci Changemaker. Tommy Walker came in my inbox yesterday through Gucci.com announcing a new line of Versus Everybody t-shirts for cities all over the country and a special Gucci Versus Everybody collab. The proceeds from this collaboration will go to nonprofits in each city. You can go to Gucci.com or go to the Somerset collection to the flagship Gucci store and get your t-shirt today if you're interested. And we want to shout out Chase Cantrell and his organization Building Community Value for their 5-year anniversary.
Yeah. Congratulations,
Yeah.
Shay. And I want to.
You got any shout outs, Donna? Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead,
yeah, definitely. The Detroit Residents First Fund, as I mentioned earlier, definitely Chase. And, I want to really shout out all of the members who have been working with the Detroit Residents First Fund, all of the organizations that have been working hard inside the community to make change. We had an amazing community meeting last week where Jamon Jordan and Daniel Baxter provided information on Black History Month. Daniel Baxter showcased his video on Dr. Sweet, and Jamon Jordan just showcased his brilliance and knowledge about Black history in Detroit. I could listen to that. People want to know, could they listen again? Because they forgot to take notes, and there was so much information he was packing into every minute. So we are going to be sharing that on our website so people can go back and take a look and listen. But I appreciate Jamon for his commitment to our history and making it happen. I will say this about the Gucci collab. The $390 shirt reminds me a little bit of Shinola, so I'm hoping that it doesn't end up gentrifying cool and Blackness in the city of Detroit, and that's a concern of mine. And also, it's a concern of mine because when outsiders come into the community and bring philanthropy, a lot of times the organizations they are funded are not the organizations run by grassroots and Black people making a difference at the ground level. And so when you pay $390 for that t-shirt and the part of the proceeds goes to charity, I hope it goes to charities that are not contributing to the gentrification of our community. And there's a huge discrepancy in how charity is administered when people come in from the outside. And I hope that is not replicated in this instance.
Well said. Well said. Latisha, do you have any more shout outs?
You know what? I don't have a shout out, but I did want to say if anybody is connected to Detroit versus Everybody, that we actually have a sewing workshop that we do. So if they want to donate proceeds to an organization, we would love to accept those so that we can teach more people how to sew and maybe we can work together.
Nice button on this conversation. Listen, we thank you all so much for listening. We'll see you this time next week. Catch the wave.